want you to look at this. All the buildings in the 50s and 60s were maybe 2 and 3 stories. And this is probably the last one still standing in Las Vegas. This is what it used to be. Just take a look at this compared to those high-rises, 30, 40-story buildings. The Moulin Rouge was the first quality hotel that allowed blacks to stay here. And it's obviously it's closed and it's dark inside. But if you'll come with me now, we'll go inside and I will tell you some incredible history about this wonderful place. We are now inside the Moulin Rouge, and if there's any place in Las Vegas that has history, this is it. This is history. There are so many things that went on here, so just follow me and I'll give you an idea of exactly what happened, okay? I want to just show you some of the great stuff that's back there. You're probably wondering, why did this place close after 6 months? It was a victim of its own success. After 6 months, there was a 10-year loan agreement which the banks came in and they called it back. And the people in the Strip could not understand why the Strip was empty. Why were they losing money? They were finally realizing that everybody came here to see the shows and everything. Well, here I am now standing on this wonderful stage, and as I walk on the stage, I could almost feel Sammy dancing and hear Nat singing and the beautiful Lena Horne. And my goodness, I remember some of those dressing rooms back there. We're going to take you in there. But the thing that really got to me is that here are these great stars like Nat Cole and Lena Horne and Sammy Davis and Billy Daniels and Pearl Bailey and so on. When they were working down on the strip, they were treated like dogs. I mean, they were not allowed to eat there. They were not allowed to stay there. They were not allowed to come in the front door. The only way that they could get in to do their show and make millions for these people is to go through the back door, through the laundry room, through the kitchen. The minute they got on stage, all of a sudden, wow, Mr. Nat King Cole, there was 1,000 people, everything was fine. After the show was over, instead of being treated royally, and the stars which they were, all they had to do, I guess, after the show was over, they went back through the kitchen, through the laundry room, and out in the back, in the car, and go back to downtown to these terrible places. So when the Moulin Rouge came into being, it created a home for these people. It created a safe place for them. They were treated like stars, which they were. And that's the reason they wanted to be here. This was a place for them to kind of compete with the Strip and show you, hey, you know, we're human beings just like they are. Why are we treated so badly? We finally have a place that we can be respected and treated like stars. So as I look around here, this is just unbelievable. This is really one of the most historical places in Las Vegas, and thank goodness it's still here. Gee, I wish they would open really soon. I'd like to come here and perform. I really would. I think it'd be wonderful. You see that building here, the Mirage? This is a true story. I was working at the Sands Hotel, which is now this incredible building here. And I remember in the late 50s, I was working in the lounge, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing here. There were a couple little shacks, which we'll tell you about later, where all the entertainers used to stay. And there were about 8 or 9 little wooden huts. And one day, one of the owners came over to me and said, look, I'll sell you this property for $10,000. Well, I didn't have 10 cents. Well, you know what's so strange? Steve Wynn, who's a friend of mine, I told Steve Wynn, you know, if I bought this property, you would be working for me, because the property that I'm speaking of for $10,000 is the Mirage. And if you pan over to the right, the Venetian right there used to be the Sands, where I worked for many, many years. So all the stuff to the left, which is the Mirage, which is exactly what I'm speaking of right here, starting here, is where those little huts were. We used to run across the street to these little huts, and I told Steve, I would be your boss, rather you be my boss. I think of some of the things that I did here in the 60s and the 70s. As I tell you, I was bad. I mean, even though I was married, to Danny, who introduced me to Sam Giancana. I was here alone for quite a while. I went out with every showgirl, and I'm not proud to do this, by the way, but that's who Buddy Greco was at that time. I was nuts. I went out with every showgirl you could think of, and I remember one time that Danny was here on this particular trip, and I was driving a car down the strip with Keely Smith and Betty Grable, and we were just having some fun going up and down the strip, and I was listening to the radio station here, who played records by me and Sinatra and everybody else, and while we were joking and having a good time, the announcer said, and the next song you're going to hear is by Buddy Greco. And Betty Grable and Keely and I, we just kind of looked at each other, and he said, and after this record is over, Buddy, if you're listening, you're wanted home now. Danny is waiting for you. Well, you never saw such a quick exit in your life. I went, brim, 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 bang, down home, dropped the girls off, and I went in and had a terrible row, as you say, a terrible fight, but I deserved it because I was a jerk.